Welcome back to the Idiot Watches series, the show where me, the idiot, watches back wrestling. But the twist is, I haven't been watching any of these companies for a while. So I try to find things that I like and things that I dislike, and then I'll give you an enjoyment rating at the end. I like to mix some of the smaller shows in with the larger ones. It is nice to give the smaller shows a bit of exposure. You never know, some of you may like what you see on them. But we'll be starting out with Monday Night Raw, and it has been an incredibly long time since I've sat down and watched an episode of Raw. I definitely have not watched a Netflix episode. Well, today's the day, bring it on. I know who most of the top stars are, but not so familiar with the rest of the roster. Wow, look at that stadium. It is a long way off what I'm usually watching. It's kind of beautiful and ugly at the same time, just like the Hawk. I like how the show starts out with all the wrestlers walking towards the locker rooms. It makes them feel like stars. Paul Heyman gets the loudest cheer. He hasn't really changed much, has he? He still looks like a giant wart-covered slug. The Badger Michael Cole is looking older now though. Raw General Manager Adam Pearce wants to sort out the women's match for WrestleMania. Io Sky is a contender. I'm assuming she's a crowd favourite. Bianca Belair and Rhea Ripley are two absolutely massive ladies. What are they feeding these girls? They didn't have machines like this back when I was watching. They look like they could beat up most of the guys. They both get louder reactions than Io Sky, so now I'm really confused about who is good and who is bad. The general manager runs down all three of them for being unprofessional. Maybe he's the heel and they're all faces. Just like that, he makes it a triple threat for WrestleMania. He wants it over quickly, but Bianca has other plans and she wants to do a promo. She points out that there's a bias about Rhea Ripley getting in the match as she hasn't earned it. 5 people chant her nickname as she pauses, but the chant never catches on. Io Sky looks like she's about to cry. I think she feels left out because none of the focus is on her. She's probably going to win the WrestleMania match, isn't she? Sky has enough and missile drop kicks the other two together. Oh, she's already the champion. I reckon she's going to retain then. In the back! Wow, I can't believe that the Judgment Day still exists. How long's this been going on now? Finn and Dominic will both be part of a fatal 4-way at Mania for the IC title. Balor calls him weak and says he needs to win his match tonight without any help from the Judgment Day. The first match is a women's IC title match. Bayley challenges for Lyra's belt. She looks like a little kid, especially coming off the girls in the last in-ring segment. It's not the prettiest start to the match. I've heard good things about these two though. And yeah, it does improve to be fair. Valkyria gets a 2 off a crossbody but gets jerked off the top on her second dive and she takes a nasty knock to the noggin. Bayley tries to give her brain damage with a diving elbow to the back of the head. She ends up dominating for a very long time until she misses a dive out the ring. Lyra's dive is also stopped and she's crushed with a Bayley to belly on the outside. They come back to the ring where Lyra hits a gut-wrench powerbomb for a 2. It's all for nothing though as she gets her brain cells smashed in once again with a sunset flip bomb into the corner. She won't be doing any algebra after that one. She somehow stays in this match and does a tornado DDT straight into a fisherwoman suplex. Bayley blocks the next dive and puts on a Boston Crab. It doesn't work and Lyra wins the match with a sneaky pin. Every time I see the WWE women, I am blown away with the athleticism. It's all alright though because they hug it out afterwards. Comedian Bert Kreischer is up next. I heard this was a bit controversial, something about some racist jokes. I'm not really informed, but I hear people hate him. Loads of wrestlers storm into the segment. Otis removes his shirt which makes most of them dump in their nappies with fear and run away. Ludwig Kaiser makes some vague threats whilst licking his lips. He's going to raise some hell tonight. Then he never appears again. The Latino World Order are out next. Good to see that Rey Mysterio is still here. I know Wilde is the former Zema Ion from TNA, but I don't know the other guys. Before they can do anything, AJ Styles says he's looking forward to facing Logan Paul at WrestleMania. Karrion Kross and Scarlett Bordeaux walk up. For some reason, Kross is adamant that AJ Styles can't lose at WrestleMania. He loves him, or something, no idea. I miss blonde Scarlett. Back to the ring and it's El Grande Americano, who I believe is Chad Gable under a mask. Gable may be one of the most toned individuals the Hawk has ever laid his beak on. Seriously, he's up there with Ken Shamrock in his prime. It's 6-man action anyway, he's teaming up with the Creed brothers. The Latino guys hit a triple flip dive, but I just can't see them winning this match. Speaking of which, the Creeds and Gable get triple superplexes in response. The crowd have some fun now with Gable chanting that he's Gable. Man, I absolutely hate watching this big Creed dude. It makes me miss the gym so bad, but I've been rehabbing my shoulder and I have to take some time off. I think the storyline here is that the other luchadors feel Gable is making fun of the luchadors by doing this gimmick. Wilde hits a wild dive out of the ring. Del Toro does too. Gable ends up putting a piece of metal inside his mask and wins with a diving headbutt. That spot has never really made sense to me, but who cares? What a fun match that was. Power moves and high flyer moves, and it wasn't too long either. Really good stuff. Now, highlights of how Gunther is a very bad man beating up Jimmy Uso whilst Jay was handcuffed and forced to watch it. Liv Morgan and Raquel have an unbearable interview where the interviewer runs down a bunch of tag teams and Liv just keeps saying, they're great but not as great as us. What a waste of airtime this was. Couldn't someone fed her some funny trash talking lines? She tries to say something about Dominic and the camera awkwardly cuts away. A smiling Gunther out to the ring next. His entrance goes on forever. Jey Uso comes through the crowd like the Terminator. I assume he's here for revenge. After a very long time, he brings himself to look into Gunther's beautiful eyes. He is lost for words for a while. He eventually admits that he was pissed off and scared when Gunther destroyed his brother. He is no longer afraid though. This is kind of slow. He tells Gunther to hug and kiss his family before WrestleMania because he's gonna get him. That ends that. I'm assuming there was some sort of rule or stipulation that Uso couldn't lay his hands on Gunther, otherwise it wouldn't really make sense, but I didn't hear that mentioned at all. The New Day have a match with the chance to become record 12-time tag team champions. The champions are the War Raiders. Silence for the tag team champions, unfortunately. Rhea Ripley gives Stephanie McMahon a jacket. She now has her own TV show or something. Probably about a decade too late for her. Rey Mysterio is in a bad mood and wants to fight Chad Gable at WrestleMania. Back at the ringside and the match happens and it's good action, but I couldn't help but be slightly distracted by a comedian who was different to the earlier comedian. He's on commentary and he spent the entire match making fun of diseased badger Michael Cole. And it was funny, perhaps too funny. The match doesn't have a proper finish because the Vikings accidentally get themselves DQ'd. Pentagon Jr. is the next man out and he's facing Dominic Mysterio. Wow, I've never seen boots like dominoes. Man, this show is so long, I need some medication. Pentagon hits a head scissors and a turtle wheel backbreaker. He continues by throwing himself out of the ring on Carlito and Dominic. He doesn't take Carlito out enough though because he ends up causing a distraction to turn the match. The crowd keep on cheering for Dom. He does the Three Amigos before Penta comes back for handstand falling kick. Dominic reverses the Pentagon driver and hits a grazing kick. He now hits the Canadian Destroyer and tries a frog splash which doesn't work. They keep making a fuss about it being called the Mexican Destroyer and it being Pentagon's move. Anyway, Pentagon wins when he snaps off Dom's arm and hits the Pentagon driver. Carlito Caribbean Cool was a bad loser and he attacks Pentagon with a backstabber. Bron Breakker, the Rib Shaker, is the IC champion and he makes the save. He spears Carlito so hard down the aisle that he is now dead or something. Probably the highlight of the show. Dominic gets one too and Pentagon as well. He's forgot about Finn Balor though, who hits him with a final cut. Balor dumps in his little nappy and runs away before Bron Breakker can get any revenge. Bron Breakker is the most orange man I've ever seen. He's also awesome. Chad Gable hypes up his match where he will be the Mas Luchador El Grande Americano at Mania. Paul Heyman barges past him and drags his ass to the ring. This show seems to be ending with a Paul Heyman promo. He loves Roman Reigns and he will always be loyal to him. However, he will be in Punk's corner at WrestleMania. This brings out Seth Rollins. The music and the entrances take so long on this show. He stirs the pot on who Paul Heyman really wants to win at Mania. Rollins runs down how Punk and Reigns don't really care about Heyman, they're just using him. Sounds like Rollins wants Heyman to join him. He asks Heyman to not bother coming to WrestleMania. Heyman shakes his chins in defiance. Rollins decides the best way to remove him from Mania is to beat him up. He does eventually attack him, but CM Punk immediately makes the save. A huge bottle of Prime is knocked over. Who's even drinking that piss juice? Rollins stomps Punk down in the middle of the ring. Somehow he's too slow to get Heyman with one. Rollins says that Heyman now owes him a favour. What? Why? Why does he owe him a favour? That's the show. Let's start with the good. The in-ring action was excellent, especially the six-man tag. The crowd was pretty lively. The Gunther-Uso feud seems quite intense, the sort of stuff the Hawk would like. The second comedian was quite funny. The negatives. It doesn't really feel like there's much star power on this show. Where is everyone? I keep hearing about the great Roman Reigns, yet he never seems to turn up when I'm watching. Punk only had a short run in too, and I'm guessing Cody is on the other brand. I wish they just combined the two shows. There isn't really enough stars anymore for a brand split to make sense. It might be best for business, but it's not best for entertainment. The recaps, WrestleMania hype, entrances and adverts feel like they take up half the show. 2.5 hours is a bit of a brutal slug for me to get through. It wasn't a terrible show or anything, it just felt like I was watching developmental at times. A middle of the road 6 out of 10. Okay, next up we're going to check in with the Juggalos. Yeah, they still exist. The ICP have a fairly new TV show which is called Lunacy. Shows are around an hour long and they're uploaded to their YouTube channel. It seems to be a passion project because they are pouring some serious money into this promotion. The opening video package probably has the best theme music on any wrestling company today. Violent J throws his sizable weight around and reveals he has vacated the tag belts because Shane Mercer refused to defend them with Colby Carino. Shane Mercer's a heavyweight that I've been surprised hasn't made it to a major promotion yet. We come to the ring and it's completely different to any wrestling event you've ever seen. They are pulling in some seriously impressive crowds for the size of the show. Not really this one though, the building looked quite small. Colby Corino will be taking on a wrestler who has a Michael Jackson gimmick. He moonwalks around the building. It's not actually an insulting parody of Michael either, which is a nice change, it's more of a tribute. As they circle each other, he's still moonwalking. Jackson powers up on the tip of his toes and moonwalks on a lockup. He's athletic too, as he struts around along the ropes with an old school. Colby Corino is known to hate gimmicks though, and he spins him through the air into a backbreaker. Not sure why Colby Corino is doing Samoan drops though. Samoan drops should only be safe for Samoans and fat guys, and Corino is neither. Jackson fights back using his special glove. He even has his own version of the people's elbow. It doesn't work, but it made me laugh though. There's a ref bump and Corino hits his finisher, but now the ref wakes up, and I think it was too early because Shane Mercer rushes the ring and kills Colby Corino, and the ref has to pretend that he can't see him. Mike Jackson wins the match. The musical influences continue on the show with the Backseat Boys, who are apparently signed to JCW Psychopathic Records. They win a tag tournament match. Hardcore women's wrestler Mickey Knuckles still exists. She's in a rage and demands to beat up 2 girls at once tonight. One girl called Brittany looks very young. Apparently she has a narcissist gimmick. Her partner Alice Blaine is like the opposite of her. I'm pretty sure that I never ever wanted to see Mickey Knuckles unrobed like this. We've got 3 completely different characters here. The match goes on for a surprisingly long amount of time with constant teases that someone is going for a barbed wire board. Come on JCW, I didn't for a second believe that this little 19-year-old Barbie girl was going through that. Predictably, it is Mickey who goes through the board. They even sandwich her with another board, but she's still kicking out. The match stops for a moment as she can't get it off her bedroom attire. She even hits suplexes and slams whilst covered in the barbed wire, and Mickey Knuckles wins the match. That is a dangerous ass right there. A clown now casually tells us he's about to shove his rubber duck, not his words, down someone's throat. Speaking of that, Jasmine St. Clair is randomly here. Who remembers her? I'm sure some of you do. Not my proudest. Nah, I'm not going there. Blame the juggalos, they mess with your head and turn you into a degenerate. She says she's used to handling monsters, and she has a new tag team who are monsters. Is Congo Kong? Dude's aesthetic has literally not changed since the TNA days, and he teams with Talos from NWA, and also a third monster, Mr. Happy. Oh my god, he looks like he's got hornswoggle stuffed down his pants. He makes Congo Kong look like he's on Manjaro jabs. The strangest 6-man tag I've ever seen. Kong's move range has always impressed me, and he hits a running dive into the ring. The big monsters have a clown isolated for a while until they tag in a pizza man who literally uses pizza dough as a weapon. That is new to the Hawk in wrestling, but he eventually runs out of dough and Congo Kong rolls him into a flat base. Mr. Happy, the obese chappie, wins with a sidewalk slam. I'm not sure what to think, but it certainly wasn't boring. For the 3rd time tonight, I'm surprised the wrestler is still going. This time it's Kenny King of ROH and TNA fame. He takes on Willie Mack. If you're wondering where Willie Mack ended up, it's here. He is the champion of this promotion. Willie Mack can definitely still go, and he's the most popular man on the roster, so I can see why he is the champion. Willie Mack beats Kenny King with a frog splash. So that's JCW Lunacy. Definitely a fun, light-hearted wrestling show. I would like to see them maybe try to mix in 1 or 2 serious storylines. It can't all be parodies and comedies. But if you want to just have a laugh and watch some wrestling, this is the show for you. It's not really that different to the NWA, to be honest. Slightly lower production values, but more risky gimmicks. I was in a bad mood when I put this on, but by the end of it my spirits had lifted. Because I never have to watch this again. No, I'm kidding. It did cheer me up. Next up, we've got to watch AEW Dynamite, and I've heard nothing but criticism for this company for the past year. I'm regularly told this is the worst show ever. The Hawk can't verify that, so he has to watch and find out if that's true. First thought was, wow, John Moxley and his dogfighting faction are still a thing. Again, how long has it been now? He threatens the not-so-young Bucks. Moxley's going to have a match against Shibata, which I thought was a type of bread. Moxley's the world champion, right? But this guy he's facing is no-selling all of his moves. After a very, very long time, Moxley manages to choke him out and win the match. It didn't really make him feel like a world champion, it made him just feel like another wrestler. This isn't just an AEW problem though, I've seen far too many world champions being booked to be equal with their opponents. They should run through most people unless it's a big feud. The Bucks make fun of Moxley for a bit before Kenny Omega comes out. He talks about someone dumping on the floor. This gets a dookie chant from the crowd. His promo gets interrupted midway by a loud bang, which completely throws him off his promo, and I'm not sure what happened. He accuses the Young Bucks of trying to kill the company that he's given his heart and soul for. Wow. Really giving me late WCW vibes here. If it was me, I wouldn't talk about the company being in trouble. The majority of people don't want to back a losing brand. Unless you're willing to make some serious changes. But they're probably not. We have got to learn from the mistakes of WCW. They constantly had their wrestlers talking about what state the company was in. He praises one of the Young Bucks for hitting the gym. I actually have no idea which Buck is which Buck, as I used to be able to tell them apart from the colour of their haircuts. They look like twins now. There's about to be a big fight, which brings out Okada in a poorly fitted suit. Swerve Strickland also makes his way out, which causes everyone to dump in their nappies for fear and run away. Swerve is jumped by Pac and it's turned into a match. Strangely, it's not much of a match because Swerve buckle bombs him and then there seems to be an injury to Pac's leg and the match completely stops. Swerve has no mercy and double stomps him. To be fair, I think they probably called an audible and the match was supposed to go much longer. Ricochet says he's formed a team and everyone laughs at him. In a sewer somewhere, Briscoe, Ospreay, Bailey and some other guy are going nuts like they're even experimenting too much. Ricochet leads his team of cruiserweights to the ring now. They face the sewer squad from earlier. Not sure why these 8 men are fighting. They all hit awesome dives out of the ring though. Mike Bailey's looks terrible though as a crowd of people desperately try to stand still to catch him. Ricochet misses his opponents and he lands on his feet, but dumps in his nappy of fear when he realises they're all waiting behind him. It's strange, when I first started seeing Ospreay a year ago, he stood out, but he blends in a lot more in this environment. Is he still seen as a big deal? I don't know, I'm not knocking the man, I saw him live and I was impressed, but he just seems like any other guy in there. It's basically a giant spot fest with everyone having their turn to hit a big move. It's pretty fun. Ospreay wins the pretty fun spot match. I just have no idea what the point in it was, didn't seem like there was any storylines going on. MVP, Lashley and Shelton Benjamin are here. I recently saw a video on Instagram of MVP wrestling in a high school and he was catching some serious strays for doing it. I didn't really get it myself. Matt Cardona's made a name of doing the indies, but MVP is a joke when he does it? Weird. MJF is here to speak to them. He's someone you don't hear that much about nowadays. He recently assisted them in winning a match, but they didn't want his help. He comically stands next to him and he thinks he's joined the Hurt Syndicate, but they don't seem to want him. Backstage is Megan Bayne and Penelope Ford. AEW sure likes the blondes, don't they? They complain about a recent loss to Toni Storm. She is out next to watch an Owen Hart tournament match between Thunder Rosa and Statlander. Tony makes lots of boob jokes on commentary. Taz is fully back in TNA mode, laughing his way through the show. It's good back and forth action. Rosa gets a tour off a Mexican destroyer, and Statlander wins with a sort of tombstone piledriver. The Don Callis family is also still a thing. It has been years at this point. Kyle Fletcher is roiding and oiling hard. He looks like a young Scott Steiner. No longer Crash Holly Jr. From one faction that's been around forever to another. Adam Cole is actually a very good promo. He just has to be booked carefully for him to succeed, and doing the same faction thing for years probably isn't helping him. Somehow whatever they said went over my head. Here comes Chris Jericho. He recently lost the title, but at least he has gained 2 new friends. Big Bill looks like he's slowly morphing into Test. He tries to run them down for not capturing the tag titles. Big Bill is angry and frustrated. He joined Jericho's faction so he could learn how to wrestle from the best. At this stage in his career, he should be past this. Jericho talks them back around by calling them future world champions. Then he changes his mind and blames Big Bill for Jericho losing the ROH world title. He finishes up by saying he's not angry, he's just disappointed, just like your mum would say whilst he smashes up his own television. Y2J is completely unhinged and he leaves. Never expected Jericho to be so upset about the ROH world title. An audience member loudly screams "suck on a maple leaf." I didn't realise that Jared Bowens and Caster had split up. I thought they would be tagging for their entire careers. MJF and MVP meet again. MJF is tired of being treated like a bitch. Jericho is also going on a Scott Steiner roid rage backstage. I wish they'd taken it a bit further, but he leaves before it can really get good. The main event is the Dogfighting Club versus Samoa Joe and Hook. Every time I watch AEW, a combination of either Claudio Wheeler or Moxley are in some sort of main event. If AEW isn't as popular as it used to be, perhaps that's why. Just an early impression, I haven't seen enough to really know the issues here. Samoa Joe really hasn't lost a step since I regularly watched him back in 2015-ish. Joe is eventually taken out and they team up on Hook, who's a determined little bugger. Joe comes back with a Uranagi on the outside. Moxley stops the good guys from coming back any further until he's choked out by ciabatta bread. Everybody gets choked out at the same time and Hook and Joe win the match. Actually a pretty short main event. Joe is taken out by a chick with a chair and the bad losers deliver a vicious beatdown. Hook is given a Styles Clash on the chair and Joe fills his nappy of anger as he's known to do. He says they're coming for the Trios Championships. And that's the show. It wasn't really that bad. I'm not sure where all the extreme hate comes from. The thing that surprised me the most was that there actually seems to be more promos on Dynamite than on Raw. The in-ring stuff was mostly on par with the WWE. There wasn't really anything to make fun of. I do kind of feel like Moxley and his dogfighting crew has run its course. They've been doing this for so long and nobody really cares. I don't think anyone really wants to see a power struggle storyline either. They've done that to death in wrestling. The Jericho stuff was interesting enough, and there's enough good wrestlers on the show to make it feel like a proper competition for the WWE. I just feel like a lot of the guys aren't really presented like stars. Ultimately, there wasn't a huge difference between this show and Raw, but I think that 6-man Lucha tag on Raw kind of blew everything else out of the water. Dynamite is just kind of middle-of-the-road show. Based on this episode alone, it's not embarrassing or anything like that, it's just a 5.5 out of 10. The way the internet talks, they'd say it was the worst show ever in existence. Now, long-time viewers of my channel probably won't be interested in what's next, but I can use my hawk sense to see that there might be some people who aren't usually here. So we've got to check out TNA from the other day. As you may well know, WWE, NXT and TNA are in a partnership. It has been quite fruitful for TNA in the short term. Attendances are up and they aren't the butt of anyone's jokes anymore. But the partnership is starting to sour, as the WWE are essentially using TNA as an NXT B show. Meanwhile, no TNA talent has appeared on any of the NXT shows for the last 4 episodes. Here it is, and by the way, it gets a 1 out of 10, a completely muddled joke of an attempt to make a wrestling show. The show starts out with Joe Hendry. His world title reign has been horrible, by the way. I almost made a video on that, but as wrestling fans we can sometimes be too quick to judge. Hopefully it's about to improve now he's here. No, he's just here to do commentary on the upcoming #1 contendership match. Frankie Kazarian? Why does he need to have a match? Doesn't he own the money in the brief? Wait, this isn't WWE. Well, it pretty much is, let's be honest. He faces Elijah, who has done nothing whatsoever to earn this title shot, except he is a former star, so he gets a shot. Elijah starts out with Walk with Elijah. Frankie comes close to dying on a pile driver, but lives to fight another day. He throws Elijah into the ring pole on the outside. He then makes the unwise choice to get into it with Hendry, but instead this leads to Hendry and Elijah being shoved together. Kaz brings him back to the ring, and he beats the new WWE star in about 1 minute. Hendry flattens Kazarian until security geeks break it up. These are some of the dorkiest looking security geeks of all time. One of them looks like an unmasked Abyss. Joe Hendry cries backstage because he's now got a damaged shoulder. This guy wants to stick his thumb up there, but Joe is really against that. And if you thought Joe was going to make a triumphant return at the end of this show, you're wrong, because his title reign sucks. The commentary team ask who the hell is now facing Joe Hendry at the pay-per-view. Well, this is stupid. It's obviously Kaz. He has the Call Your Shot Cup. He also just won the #1 contendership match. How could it not be Kaz? I'm not even sure why that match just happened. TNA decides to randomly then bring up an injury gimmick telling us that Joe Hendry's injury status is questionable. This whole show is questionable. Apparently, in a special online broadcast, the Slapnut system had beef with each other and they seem like they may be done. Slapnut Edwards is now in the impact zone to address the situation. He calls the rest of the crew out to the ring. Is he going to fire his wife? Who put this Slapnut in charge anyway? Eddie tells Fandango he's known him longer than his wife and asks him if he's tired of being a jobber. He hugs Slapnuts, telling him he's still part of this group. Beyond Average, Brian Myers is next. Eddie thinks together they have reinvented tag team wrestling. What? To make it the most boring and skippable matches of all time. He asks Myers if he wants to get the tag titles back. Myers is of course in. He asks his wife if she's tired of hanging around with losers. She apparently still loves him and she's in. Moose is last. He asks if Moose wants to be great again. He doesn't get to answer because... oh god, it's Cody Deaner? He still exists? Why does he still have a job? For no reason at all, he stirs the pot with Moose. Edward says he told Deaner to keep his nose out of their business last week. Did he? I haven't even seen this man in months. Feels like I've skipped an episode, but I haven't. Why would Moose want to take advice from Cody Deaner? He looks like he's half-starved, a complete goofball. He polls the crowd on if Moose should leave the system. Who even cares at this point? This is making me feel ill and the Hawk's going to have to get something out of my system. Why is Cody Deaner a part of this segment? I am so confused. Moose says the people are right and then he decks Cody. They all beat down Deaner and the Spleener. Moose puts his little ring back on and the system are fine. More reasons for the Hawk to be annoyed. What a waste of airtime this whole breakup angle was. And why was Cody Deaner a part of it? Santina Nutella meets with the system backstage. He decides to put Moose in the Ultimate X match. The boy from Bradford will be in it and so will Matt Cardona. They all laugh about why Matt Cardona would be in this match. It's time for the weekly NXT Love-In. Spitfire will be facing NXT girls Lash Legend and Jakara Jackson. Oh god, they still have the horrible graphic effects. It looks so cheap and stupid like Star Trek from the 80s. Dolan and Paxley excitedly watch the match backstage. Jackson starts with an arm drag. Luna and Fret come back with avalanche attacks. Fret and Jackson look like twins / teammates. Lash Legend in now. She keeps powering Danny Luna around the ring, but she doesn't even look strong. She just looks gangly. The crowd desperately chant NXT. I hate this show so much. It's actually embarrassing that it's even called TNA. Spitfire have been faces this entire time, literally since they started tagging, but this crowd is booing them. Danny kicks Lash into Jodie's diving crossbody for a 2. The match moves on with Luna slamming Jackson and trying to slam her own partner on top, but Jackson rolls away. Legend makes a blind tag and boots Luna in the head. Luna gets her face stomped into the corner. They pretty much reversed the spot from earlier, this time Luna blocks the double teaming on top of her. Fret has the tag and the audience are silent because they don't want Spitfire to win. Fret hits head scissors to Lash Legend. She throws the Metal Girls together and suplexes Jackson. Legend looks very slow and clumsy. Jodie Fret hits a delayed jackhammer to Jackson, but the pin is broken up. Luna smashes Legend with a dropkick. She's fine and she throws Luna out of the ring, and Jackson dives out the ring at Luna. The crowd desperately chant NXT. Fret fights off a double team and almost wins with a sneaky pin. Jodie Fret has to bravely fight on her own. As she chops her NXT opponents, the crowd boo her. It does look pretty stupid to be fair. It looks like she's having an asthma attack. It leads to Legend smacking out her own partner by mistake. Fret tries to dive on Legend, but she's caught as Jackson makes a blind tag. They hit her with a double team move and it's the 3. Well, that was horrible. Lash Legend is awful. She looks like a gazelle on ice skates stumbling around the ring. She sucks. I'm sorry, but there's nothing good about her. The NXT chants throughout the match, booing Spitfire. No, not a good match. This made me feel sick. In the back, Mike Santana introduces Santino to an addict. TNA have apparently given him a backstage pass and a job. Taking the cheap option after all those backstage firings I see. The Hardy Boys are out next. They're here to hype their upcoming match with the Nemeth brothers. They used to love and trust Dolph Ziggler, but he betrayed them in that cage match. Matt Hardy would like us to look at the scar on his nose caused by Dolph Ziggler. Matt starts going into broken mode now with rage. Jeff Hardy has a rally towel. Oh, we're going back to that again, are we? As long as Ricky Ortiz isn't here. Jeff can't believe that anyone would think the Ziggler brothers are the better brother tag team. Well, no, nobody does. They are randomly interrupted by the Bad Hands. They hear on the crowd and say the Hardys aren't great anymore. They want a tag team title shot. They look like a couple of tadpoles. For some god-awful reason, Santino Marella has to sign off on this match to waste some more time. Why can't the Hardys just say, yes, we'll have a match? He makes the match, but it's non-title for now. Jeff better steamroll these jobbers or we'll be dumping all the way back to North Carolina. The Bad Hands are very boring, so I drifted off. The Hardys don't steamroll the jobbers. I can't even remember the last time these jobbers had a match on TNA, yet here they are taking the Hardy Boys to the limit. Matt eventually gets his head in the game and hits a side effect. They come close to beating Skylark with a poetry emotion and a second side effect. Skylark somehow almost beats Jeff with a roll-up, then they just beat him with a plot twist and the Swanton Bomb. Ryan Nemeth is seen sarcastically clapping backstage. The boy from Bradford takes offence to that as he loves the Hardy Boys. They will have a match at some point, who knows. They do another injury report. A member of the BBWs who looks like Eric Young says that Joe Hendry has sprained his rotator cuff. He believes Joe can pull it off because he believes in Joe Hendry. See, this is what the problem is. If Joe Hendry was a good champion, he'd come storming back into the arena despite his injury. But no. Here comes Steph and Mansa. She still thinks she's the digital media champion. Warner thinks they are stars and headliners. Wasn't your last match bumped to the pre-show on the last pay-per-view? They think they're stars as they're on the cover of the TNA magazine. I didn't even know TNA had a magazine, that can't be real. They start making out, which brings out Santino Marella. He says they're not the digital media's champions because they didn't beat anyone for it. He's going to take the belt from them and something will arise from the ashes. A Beth Phoenix. That's probably the funniest thing he's said since being in TNA. He makes a tournament for the pay-per-view to crown a TNA International Champion. Oh, you mean just like the Global Champion? He talks about the famous 2005 Unbreakable Freeway. To pay tribute to that match, every tournament match will be a freeway. I'm so confused, what's the next pay-per-view? Are we hyping 2 shows here? Why? Callahan jumps Warner with a baseball bat. He then throws Warner off the stage and through a table. The lighting is awful, terrible, a complete waste of time. Why do a dangerous spot when no one can see it? Never mind, Warner's probably used to doing that. Steph stands on stage screaming about her husband but is seemingly too lazy to go and check on him. The crack addict from earlier is taken to meet Mustafa Ali whilst crazy random dramatic music plays. They shove him in a car boot like it's a mobster hit. At the Ali compound, which is also in the TNA arena, the meeting takes place. Mustafa reveals that this guy destroyed a family's lives when he caused an accident which left a little girl unable to walk. Ali calls him a monster and an addict and he spits on him. Mustafa Ali lets him go because he's an addict and he's gonna destroy himself anyway. Well, that was dark. Ash by Elegance needed a break from TNA. I don't blame her, I need a vacation after this show too. The Elegance manager has been left in charge and he thinks he's found a new person to recruit to their group called Maggie Lee. The problem is she's too ugly. Heather says she's going to mentor the girl and give her a makeover. Be nice if we could see who the girl they're talking about even is. God, this show is so bad. It's then announced that Vikingo will be at Ultimate X. Cool, I like that guy. 3 random girls from NXT are here. Get off the show, I'm sick of all these random people turning up for no reason. What is the storyline reason that they can just show up and do whatever the hell they want? Why can't they just focus on a few people and get them over? Oh no, because this is the building for NXT and they love these people. Well, I don't. This is horrible. These people are taking up so much time on each TNA show. They're teaming with Tessa Blanchard in her extra small swimming trunks. The difference in star power is immense. I'm not saying that as a TNA fan. These random girls keep turning up and all they do is look unconfident. Their music sucks. You can tell they haven't fully got on board with their characters. You won't know who they are if you don't watch NXT. Tasha knows who she is. She's a dickhead. The opponents will be Lei Ying Lee, Isaiah Brookside and Masha Slamovich, who's been a horrible champion too, by the way. I know Jordan Grace had large boots to fill, but there's just been no effort to make Masha be special. She just has random matches which aren't even good. Blanchard and Slamovich finally fight, which has been teased for a while. Masha wins the first exchange and Tessa dumps in her swimming trunks and tags out. Masha follows her out of the ring with a corkscrew dive. Lei Ying Lee destroys an NXT girl for a while. Rosemary watches from the crowd because she loves Zaya Brookside or something. Masha starts dominating the match when Tessa rushes her like a missile and smacks her with a cutter. Everybody starts kicking everyone else down as the match breaks down. Masha is about to win when Tessa returns and she crushes Masha with the buzzsaw DDT for the free. Alright, TNA just randomly letting people win who weren't even tagged in, but whatever. Yay, NXT and Tessa win. TNA desperately claim that Tessa did tag in. The replay shows the tag, and the commentary team say she clearly tagged in. Don't lie, you fucked up. In the back, the addict has relapsed because of Mustafa Ali. Mike Santana is livid. Question: if you're Mike Santana, why are you bringing a recovering addict with you to a TNA show where you know that known dick Mustafa Ali is going to screw with him? You're a bad friend, Mike Santana. The show will end with Frankie Kazarian. He laughs at Joe Hendry for getting injured. He says he's going to be calling his shot on April 27th in his home state at the Rebellion pay-per-view. So yeah, we are hyping 2 pay-per-views, Rebellion and Unbreakable. Pretty confusing and dumb. This happened last month too with the NXT show and the TNA pay-per-view. Then Ethan Page randomly returns to TNA. The crowd frantically chant NXT. Do you know how many times TNA was chanted on the show tonight? A big, whopping 0! Ethan jokes that there's actually fans at a TNA show now, because when he was here last, it was the pandemic. They discuss if Kaz is right to cash in on an injured Joe Hendry. It's like 3 weeks away. Who knows what his health is going to be like by then? Page points out that he already beat Joe Hendry in a match. Oh wow, really? When was that? I don't remember seeing that happen. Was that in a different company by chance? Ethan Page says he spoke with Santino and he's got a title shot against Joe Hendry at Rebellion. Kaz flips and says he will not stand for this. Okay, chill dude, just cash in some other time. Frankie Kazarian gets beaten up by Ethan Page and he lies crying on the floor as the crowd chant NXT. I am so utterly confused after watching this show. As far as I was aware, Kaz is entitled to cash in like it's money in the bank. Or he has to announce it in advance or something. The rules aren't that clear. Why does it have to now be a triple threat? Why can't Kaz just have the match some other time? What was the match at the start of the night for? Why does Ethan Page just walk into TNA and get a title shot? Why are we giving so much airtime to these people? Well, the Hawk has done the maths, and the maths spells disaster for TNA. Do you know how long was spent on NXT people this week? Over half an hour. Which is over a third of the show, by the way. The audience spent the night cheering for the NXT guys. The only reason TNA is doing well in terms of ticket sales is because of WWE. Nobody cares about the TNA wrestlers, they just want the NXT guys. The entire show, minus one thing, was unwatchable. It was bad. Really bad. 2 long-ass NXT women's matches, an incredibly confusing storyline around Kaz getting a title shot, and Joe Hendry taken off the show because he has a little bad shoulder. His title reign is a complete failure. Joe Hendry and Masha both being treated unlike stars. If it wasn't for Mustafa Ali, and God bless this man, I can't believe WWE released him. He is the only person on this entire show doing anything remotely interesting. Maybe if he re-signed with the WWE over on the NXT brand and then came back to TNA, he could then win the TNA World title. Why not? Everyone else gets shots for no reason. Oh, I'm from NXT, that means I get a title shot, right? How about getting a fucking storyline or a reason that NXT people are allowed to keep just walking into TNA? Why wouldn't the TNA wrestlers take a stand against this? They're literally stealing your TV time and title shots. It makes no sense. Ethan Page bragging about beating Joe Hendry. Okay, if you're not an NXT fan, you wouldn't know about that. It's appalling construction of a storyline. Last week, Kaz feuded with Chavo Guerrero over an incredibly dumb reason too. Where the hell is he, by the way? It was really worth having Chavo beat Casey Navarro, wasn't it? I've been holding this in for so long, and I really tried, but this show is the worst wrestling show on telly. I don't want to watch it anymore, I'd rather watch NWA. This show made me legitimately angry. I know there will be some dork in the comments calling me a TNA mark, or you will view this as an attack on the WWE. I'm not trying to attack the WWE, try and look at this from my point of view. Ask yourself, how would you feel if Monday Night Raw dedicated half an hour to TNA every week? But there's actually no storylines happening, they're just getting title shots and beating your favourite wrestlers for no reason. I bet that would wind you up too. This show is a miserable viewing experience. I've really tried to get on board with this NXT stuff, but it's just too many people at once, with no reason to actually be on the show, and I can't be on board with it any longer.